This is a Tape Deck podcast.
Hello, welcome back to Will Run For. It's Michael. So we are off this week for the 4th of July holiday here in the U.S. So we're going to take a look back at Aaron and I's adventure at the Grand Canyon just a couple years ago. I don't know if all of you have heard that one. You may not have been listening back then. I believe it was in 2022, almost exactly 2 years ago to the time we're releasing this. As you can imagine, it was pretty hot at the Grand Canyon back in that time. Come listen and learn what not to do, learn about our fun adventure before all of our other stupid adventures we've had since then. This may have been our dumbest adventure, but we enjoyed it and definitely made a lot of memories with it. So we love this one. But check it out. We'll be back next week with a Runner Studio.
Moving on.
She'll do better than us than we did in the Grand Canyon.
That's what you just ruined, Tom's segue. I can't
Ouch.
believe it. Jesus. You just
Moving
stepped
on.
all over a segue.
Stepped all over the segue.
I hear you guys had a grand adventure.
Oh my God. All right.
I'm a jerk. I don't know what you want me to say.
We have not told the story
fine.
yet, right?
I'm a jerk.
We haven't told the story yet.
No. And do you know how many people have asked me what the hell happened in the Grand Canyon? And I have maybe alluded to what's happened a couple times, and I've only directly told 3 or 4 people what happened.
Yeah. So we flew to Phoenix, drove up to the
Okay.
Grand Canyon.
Also, explain to me, I don't know if you've done this on a previous podcast, and I just forgot, but I don't know, how do you know where to go? Do you, what happened?
Oh, there's only 2 trails that
to
cross.
go, go the rim to rim. There's only you can't say there's only 2 because you could go the Walmsley way, which is anyway.
There's not a lot
of options.
Yeah.
When you're in the Grand Canyon Village, there's really only 2 main options to get down into, and they're both on they're 5 miles apart from each other, a little bit more than 5 miles.
And they
apart.
meet up at the bottom.
And they meet up kind of at the bottom to cross the Colorado River. That's not necessarily true because they take 2 different bridges, but either way, they meet up around the same area, and then once you cross the Colorado, they kind of come together to go up to North Kaibab. And so you really only have one option. Once you get to Phantom Ranch, you only have one option to go. And there wasn't really any confusion. You couldn't.
Yeah, there was nowhere else to go.
There was no place else to go. You really had one option.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
You're literally, it's trail, stream, canyon walls. That's it.
Okay. I was what do you do? I don't even know.
Yeah.
All right, let's start at the start. You guys got to the airport. How was security?
It was fantastic.
I'm kidding.
We had
I'm
TSA
kidding.
pre-check.
Oh,
Oh, that's nice.
We ate a dogfish head. Right?
No,
Flying dog.
Flying
Flying dog.
Yeah.
No, but
All
so
right.
we got to Arizona. We drove up, stopped in Sedona, which was nice, but there's a lot of fires going on.
Yeah, Arizona's basically on fire right now.
Yep.
Or was
The whole
then,
state's on fire.
So I'm still pretty sure it's on fire.
Probably. Yeah.
And so we went to Sedona. We were taking the scenic route, but literally the day before we left, the parks all shut down. So
The forests all shut down.
The national forests around the Grand Canyon all closed. Coconino Forest closed. What was the other one? The
Kaibab Forest closed.
So all the national forests were closed, which meant that all the state parks also decided to close. So there wasn't really a whole lot of places to stop. So our original plan was to drive the scenic route through Sedona and then see the Red Rocks and then maybe drive up the scenic road and stop at some of the overlooks and stuff like that. And
You couldn't do any of that.
Everything was closed. So that was kind of a bummer. And the Red Rocks were so smoky. They were just so hazy. You couldn't even tell that they were red.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. It was pretty bad. So we ended up straight up at the Grand Canyon.
Yep. Yeah, we
stopped-
stayed at the Bright Angel Lodge, which is right at the South Rim and
Yep.
right by the trailhead, actually. It was really nice.
It was where we were planning. Bright Angel Trail is like right there. So we were going to fit. That's where we're coming up off the trail.
To finish,
So
yeah.
when we finished, we were literally going to be right at the lodge. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in the morning, we got there, then we planned to get up around 2:30 and head out and start to head to the trail. With the trailhead we were going down, which is South Kaibab, was 5 miles away. So
5.5.
Yeah, we ran along the rim to get there, so we watched sunrise as we went.
Well,
over there.
so our original plan was to get up at like 2:30. We didn't get up at 2:30. That was part of the problem. Is that when we saw the temperatures were no longer at the record temperatures, Michael's like, we could start a little later. So we started. We didn't actually end up starting until 4:15.
Yeah,
Our original plan.
yes.
Our original plan was to start at like 3:30. So we started like 45 minutes, I think, after we originally planned.
I don't think it made that much difference.
I
but,
don't think it
yeah.
made that much difference either. But
So at that time of day, what was the temperature?
Up
well,
on the rim,
Flags-
it's cool.
yeah,
up-
Flagstaffs, they don't even have air conditioning in their hotels because it's
This wasn't Flagstaff.
gets-
This was at the
not
Grand
Flagstaff.
Canyon.
I'm sorry, Grand Canyon, Flagstaff and Grand Canyon Village. Sorry, I meant Grand Canyon Village. They didn't have air conditioning in the cabins because it drops to the 40s.
So when
it
we
was
left
like
it, like,
49.
when we left, it was about 50 degrees.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was really nice. Yeah, it was
It was
comfortable.
beautiful.
Yeah.
Except also we were at 7,200 feet of elevation. That is also another point of discussion that we are not used to elevation. And the first 5 miles, even when we were walking, my heart rate was at like 135, 140 because
Wow.
I just like couldn't breathe properly.
Even with all the stuff you guys do in the mountains, it's different.
Yeah, but we're
Uh,
never that high. I mean, the highest we get around here is what, maybe
2,000?
2,000, if that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's just such a
Gotcha.
huge elevation difference that
Gotcha.
the altitude we don't do any altitude training. Like
Yeah,
there's
that's
not really a way to
yeah.
simulate that. They say humidity can sort of simulate that, but it hadn't even really been that hot here because we had
Off
that,
and on.
yeah, off and on. But that what we had like May was really cool, and then the weekend of Memorial Day was cold. Like we haven't had like that hot, humid weather here as much as we normally do. And even if we had, it still
I don't
isn't
think it would've-
exactly
yeah.
the same. Like it's very difficult to simulate altitude. So it's hard. I will say that it is definitely different, and it's definitely harder to run at altitude. And I don't, even though people have told me that, I don't know that I understood how much different it was.
My
and how-
pack also weighed about 20 pounds.
Yes, he had a very heavy pack.
Oh,
So I was
gotcha. So you
carrying
did
like 20 pounds the
Yeah,
whole day.
I mean we had
more than what you normally do.
yeah,
we had
way
lights.
more, yeah.
Gotcha.
we had lights. We had all the food to get us through, like going both directions. We
And
had
just water.
3 liters of
Yeah.
water each the whole time. So I mean, both of our packs were. We had the throw to put over us when it got like a cooling jacket, so that when it was hot, you could dip it in water and it would keep your skin wet.
It had UV protection.
And had the UV protection in it.
Nice.
So we had we had more stuff than we would normally have. And even though we said we were going to practice with that, we didn't practice with enough weight for sure.
Okay. Gotcha.
Definitely did not
This is
practice
just
with
like-
enough weight.
I have like the weirdest questions because like this is so foreign to me.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's just so different than anything I've ever done.
Which I think is why we wanted to record it without like talking too much about what had actually happened. Because we're like, Diana reaction should be fun. If we will be more
I
fun.
just don't understand. Like I just
It'll be way more fun this way.
So it started off good. We watched the sunrise, all that stuff. Then we got to the trailhead, and you literally, once you get to the trailhead, you are going down. Period. It is just like straight up. You're dropping 4,000 feet in like 3 miles or 4 miles, something like that. Just boom, switchback after switchback, just hammering it down, and it's super steep.
It is, and it was more technical than I was expecting.
Yeah.
We had heard that there were really clean trails, and they were really clean
Yeah, they were
trails,
clean.
but you still had to step over a lot of stuff, and it was still
There's like a lot of rocks and wood
yeah,
to
Gotcha.
prevent erosion,
yeah. So
like for
Oh,
rain.
there
and
was
stuff.
these
Yeah.
little like logs that would stick up maybe like 5-6 inches from the ground, so you'd still have to step over those. You couldn't just run straight through without having to like every 20 feet step over something.
Yeah, yeah.
So that was harder than I expected. I will say, guys, if you didn't know, I am deathly afraid of heights.
I did not know that.
I didn't know that.
I hate heights. They are the worst. I hate going over bridges. I hate everything about like, and we were pre-watching some videos and Michael was laughing like, are you going to be okay? Because some of these videos where the trails are only like, 2 feet, 3 feet wide.
And then it's like
it's just a cliff
200,
face.
300-400 feet drop off
It's just
or
you're
whatever.
on a canyon cliff face. He's like, are you going to be okay? I said, I guess we'll find out.
It's weird. When we first started running down, like half of my vision was just off the cliffside and the other half was on the trail. Like, so you got this weird.
It was terrifying. It took me a little bit to adjust, and he was definitely doing better, like moving forward than I was. But a lot of it was because I was trying to hug the wall and not like the cliff face. And some of that was less clean because it wasn't where the actual trail was. And like when we would come around the switchback, I would hug the inside of the switchback so that I wasn't off the side. I just like swimming or just like anything else where you got to conquer your fears, I eventually got better and was able to like be more in the middle of the trail without thinking I was going to totally die. But I will say it was definitely a lesson in trying to conquer your fears. And I'm glad I did because it was still an adventure and beautiful and amazing. And the views, there's no way to describe the views on your way down. I mean, I took lots of pictures, but it's amazing.
Yeah. So basically we had the 5 miles from the cabin to the top of the trail, then 7 miles down to Phantom Ranch, which drops 4,500 feet or whatever. And most of that's at the beginning of it. There's a couple water spots on the way down, so we would fill up. We took a ton of pictures, so that took time as well. So we're going down, and we see this dude hanging out by some other stop. It was non-potable water there, but there was like
it was a bathroom,
like a bathroom, a lean-to, stuff like that. So we're like, huh. So he starts talking to us and telling us not to do it and blah, 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 blah.
He was very annoying,
He was annoying the way he approached it.
Yeah. Like he was like one of those know-it-all type hikers. He's like, I do this every single year and I blah, 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 and I blah, 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 and you blah, and this is what I tell everyone, and I tell everyone this, and
we're like, we really got to get moving.
Like we're trying to like get down to the bottom, and like you could tell like when we came down to the trail,
he was just waiting for people.
He was about to start walking, and then he saw us, and he stopped, and he waited for us because he wanted to talk to us. And you could tell he was just one of those people.
Because he was alone?
Yes.
Yeah.
So he just wanted to stop and talk. But then, like, he's telling us how we have to get down to Phantom Ranch, but then he won't stop talking to us so that we could leave.
And our plan all along was to get to Phantom Ranch and then assess where we were.
Yeah.
So this
And what is Phantom Ranch?
That's basically the bottom, and that's where the other trail that went back up to our cabin comes in.
Yeah, that's where you have to make the choice whether you're going to go to the North Rim or you're going to turn and go back.
Yeah.
Either up
give it,
the other
give
trail.
It to me one more time. How far was it down to Phantom Ranch?
13.
Well, from the cabin, it was like 13 miles.
I was just going to say because we ran part of the
5
rim,
miles up top.
It's like 13 miles. A little bit more than 13 miles.
And
to
then
Phantom
from
Ranch.
Phantom Ranch to our cabin is about 7.
Yes.
So, because it's basically a Y.
It's basically a Y.
Two trails come together, and then the other trail continues to the North Rim.
Yeah.
Essentially.
Gotcha. Okay.
So we could, at Phantom Ranch, we could have made the decision to call it and just go up to the North
Y.
Rim. So that was, or back to our cabin.
And then we found some donkeys, and Anna runs on
the
Coffee
mules,
keeps telling me that we should have just ridden that ass.
Yeah,
before
so we
got down
encountered
there-
him and all, and blah blah blah.
Yeah. So we
were annoyed
left
by
him
that. Yeah,
behind, and we ran actually the next section so we could get far.
yeah. It was
further
by the
ahead
time we
from-
got there, it was less steep, so we ran a lot. Yeah,
And then what happened?
it started getting hot fast. And then
Mhm.
Yeah. So then we went down. There's like I posted a picture on my Facebook. Maybe I'll share it along as one of the pictures. There's like a little tunnel that you have to go through that takes you to the
crosses
bridge.
a bridge that goes
and
over
then
to
it goes
Colorado.
the
yeah.
bridge over the Colorado. So we ran over that, took some pictures down there, and then we dipped our toes in the Colorado. We
Yeah.
actually went down to the river where the beach is, where rafters come in, and then we took our shoes off, our socks. We dipped our toes in. There were murder hornets there. I don't know what they were. There were these giant orange, like and they were buzzing all around, and
But
yeah.
we were feeling pretty good. It was getting warm though.
It was warm, but we were like, especially after putting your feet in, like the Colorado was freezing.
You can't swim in it, or you will like die. It's so,
So
cold.
cold.
Hypothermia.
Yeah.
So cold.
So we just went up to like our calves, which felt great, you know.
And then our plan was to stop at Phantom Ranch and get
Lemonade,
the famous
yeah.
lemonade.
They have lemonade there.
Yeah, which then, because we spent so much time in the Colorado River, the guy caught up with
Yeah,
us.
we're sitting in the Colorado, and we see him crossing the bridge in front of us, and we're like, "Oh dear God!"
Yeah, and like
Ugh.
the whole time, the thing is like, and I've had this conversation since then. Like, he's a hiker, and I get that hikers and ultra runners, trail runners have different mindsets. He didn't know what kind of life experience we had. For all he knew, we were from Arizona, and because we didn't tell him where we were from.
I have
For
no
all,
idea. I don't remember.
for all he knew, we could be like experienced trail runners that do this all the time. Like, he didn't ask us what our experience was. It was a very much I conversation. Like, well, I do this, and I wouldn't recommend this, and I tell everyone they shouldn't do this. Well, that's nice for you, but like, you don't
the
know.
mistake we made was we let our aggravation with him cloud our decision making from the time we met him.
Well, so that's what I was going to say. I think that there was a little bit of stubbornness that went into, like, once he started with the like, you shouldn't, and I know better than everyone, because that was the attitude he gave us. We were sort of like, he doesn't know better than anyone. And I do think that in the end clouded a little bit of judgment, because we were like, we felt okay. But I don't think that we understood at that moment in time what canyon heat is compared to like normal heat.
So what you're saying is he did know better.
Yes and no.
yes and no.
Yes and no. Because I've had this conversation with
we talked
several
about it a
people,
lot,
and
yeah.
I've talked to like, like some more experienced trail runners, like Vanessa, who did 333 miles the same time we were.
Oh yeah, we have
yeah.
some questions from Vanessa after this, by the way.
So like some people who like have more experience and stuff like that, like who just so I think that mindset wise at that time, I don't, looking, hindsight's different than in that moment. In that moment, we were like, we're feeling okay. We can move through this.
So we we stop at the river. Phantom Ranch is about the lemonade stand or whatever, canteen or whatever you want to call it. Is about a half mile away. So we get there, and he's there like waiting for us. And all we want to do is just order some lemonade, sit down, think about it, and then move on.
Yeah.
And then he starts talking. He tries to buy us drinks to sit down and talk to him. And like, I don't want to talk to anybody. Like, I just want to assess
Michael
where we're at.
really doesn't want to talk to anyone on a normal day.
No.
On a normal day
Yeah.
when he's not feeling like that.
Yes. An interjection with a fun story that was told on our Instagram stories anyway. We met the fattest squirrel that you will ever meet
Oh my
in your
God.
entire life.
There was like 4 of them.
And I mean, if there's a picture of the squirrel next to my shoe, and he's bigger than my foot, like way bigger than, he's like double the size of my foot. He's so big.
Aw.
Because all they do, they're these canyon squirrels that just steal food at Phantom Ranch. Like, we're sitting there, we'd gotten
Stole
a bagel.
my jelly. Yeah.
We got a bagel, and they give you those little cups of like jelly and peanut butter to put on to butter your. And Michael puts the thing of jelly down, and out of nowhere, this fat old squirrel comes and scampers over, steals it, and runs away. And we're like, "What just happened?"
Yeah.
it's adorable, but I'm sure super frustrating
Yeah.
when you guys were feeling the way you were
I was
feeling.
like, you just stole my jelly.
It just
But regardless,
it was hilarious.
Yeah, so we couldn't sit in the picnic area because he was over there, and we're like, we just want to drink our lemonade and think about what's next. So we finish up and finally get on our way, and put on our UV gear because it's starting to get hot at heat of the day, and it's starting to get really hot. So you're heading really into like some tight canyons. There is a nice stream that runs along the trail, but it's hard to get down to because it's not like, some spots it's like 20 feet down, but no real clean way to climb down to it. There's a few areas where you can get down to it, and I would jump down and wet our stuff and we'd put it on. So,
Yeah.
but it started getting really, really, really hot. And down there, when it gets hot, like the sun is reflecting off of each wall. The winds are coming through like a convection oven. So there is no like relief at all, like none.
When I say a convection oven, I like literally felt like we were just little pieces of chicken in a oven being baked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Sounds delicious.
Yeah, it's hell there.
Yeah.
Everyone's like, the heat's different. Yeah, it's different because it's like where I don't know. I'd rather deal with humidity than deal with the heat in Arizona because it feels like an oven.
yeah, basically from Phantom Ranch to the North Rim is about 13 miles ish.
Yeah, it's 13.7 according to the sign.
So that was from our cabin to Phantom Ranch was, I guess, 17 miles.
I think our GPSs were off, but that's
Well, whatever. Regardless,
according to the signs. It should have been like 27 miles. So I think
right.
it was like 13 plus 13.
13 and 13.
It was
So
yeah.
So we had to make the choice to go ahead 13 miles to the North Rim, then turn around and come back, or we could have turned there, went up dead through the sun in the hottest part of the day up Bright Angel to get back to the cabin. So we're like, well, we might as well, let's just go North Rim. We're feeling pretty good. We're fine. We'll take our time. See, but the problem,
just to be clear, a guy had died there like the week before, right?
Sunday
A woman.
prior, yeah.
Like 2 days before.
It was a
like,
woman. Yeah.
So we're like, all right.
But also, to be fair,
It was 20
that
degrees
was when it was
cooler,
120 degrees, and it was more than 25 degrees cooler.
Yeah, it was about
when
90,
we were doing it.
upper
It was like
90s,
95 when we
Yeah.
were going to be there versus 120.
So there was a massive temperature
be
difference.
clear, there
yeah.
was a very big temperature difference between those two numbers.
If it was 120, we weren't even going to go.
Yeah, I mean,
down,
honestly, we weren't. Yeah, if the record temperatures were still there, we were reevaluating, and we weren't even. We may not have even done any of it. We didn't know up until the week before what we were even going to do.
And honestly, if it was 105, we probably just would have like done a little out and back kind of thing.
Yeah,
because that was like we weren't going to chance it. But even upper 90s was really hot and crushing.
Yeah, because when I was there on, I guess it was like earlier that same week, it was hotter. Earlier the week, it was, I guess, Tuesday when I called you. I was waiting for an Uber. And he's like, how's it feel? And I was like, I've got so much sweat just dripping down into my ass crack right now. I can't even deal with it. And I was like, Tom, I don't know how they were going to run this weekend because I'm standing here waiting for an Uber. Miserable.
I mean,
I was like, I don't know how they're going to do it.
Phoenix
is what I said.
Phoenix was totally different too.
That was
when
way
we went
hotter,
went to Tempe, which afterwards and even before, like, I mean, that 100 it never got under, like, even in the morning, it was like 90 degrees when we woke up. Like, it's definitely way more of an oven down there. But like, the thing about this was our beginning temperature was going to be 50. We knew that the high for the North Rim was only 83 that day. So the North Rim and the South Rim are both much cooler, and it was really just the middle part that was going to be hard. So if we could get through the middle of the canyon early in the day, then we would be, as you're going up in elevation, it's getting cool, like dropping 5 degrees per 1,000 feet, basically.
Yeah, and honestly,
so we knew that as long as we could get to a certain point, that we would be okay going up.
Yeah.
The problem was getting to that certain point.
Yeah, that 7 miles in the middle is actually the most runnable area because it's super clean and pretty flat. But we couldn't run it because it was so hot, and our packs were very heavy, and So you got hit by the heat worst first.
Well, so I mean, in general, even here in New Jersey, I don't deal well with heat. I'm not a great heat runner. I've always hated running in the heat. It's just who I am. And I did fear it a little, but I thought it would be okay. I thought I would have enough water, but there's no like, your body is just spending so much time trying to cool itself down that even if you're hydrating, it doesn't change.
You can't come back.
You can't. Yeah. So there was a point. The part of the problem that I didn't realize is that once you get to Phantom Ranch, you actually don't go up in elevation for the first 7 miles. The first 7 miles of that 13 miles is in the middle of the canyon. And it's not, I think we went up maybe 800 of the like 6,000 feet that we needed to go up. The last, 5 miles of that
is
13
like
miles
is
just straight up 5,000 feet of elevation in 5 miles.
God.
So that 7 miles is at the bottom. And I don't think that it's a lesson learned. I did not know that 7 of the miles were at the bottom where all the heat was. I thought that once you left Phantom Ranch, you started going up. And I thought that meant that it would start getting cooler sooner than it did. But 7 miles is a really long time to go in that 98 degree heat, where I thought that within the first 2 to 3 miles, we would start getting cooler, and we didn't.
Yeah.
I was so worried about you guys.
And with packs on and everything else.
And there was a few moments in the canyon where I thought, I even said it to him. I was like, this is where we're going to hear from Diana, because we're going to have to get a rescue. The helicopter's coming in, and Diana's going to be like, I told you.
I would have had to call somebody.
So
we got about 4 miles out or a little more from Phantom Ranch, and you were feeling very, very bad.
The first 3-ish miles is along canyon walls. So there was
like
still some shade. That was where we were able to get down to the river the easiest, or the stream the easiest.
Or whatever, yeah.
So every couple miles we would dip ourselves in the water, our stuff in the water. We had the cooling jackets, so you'd put them in the water and then put them on completely wet, and they would stay wet for like, a little bit.
5 minutes.
Well, I was going to ask.
That
was actually the question that was going to come out of my mouth as well. How long did they stay like wet?
Probably a good 20 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be like 25 minutes. I mean, it wasn't.
We would put them on like drenched, like dripping wet. Yeah.
Same thing with the hats and everything. So, about 4-ish miles into that 7, we got to a point where you're not near the canyon walls, and you're now just in the center of the canyon,
just getting baked,
being in a little convection oven,
and it's like
being the
what
crispy little piece of chicken that we were becoming.
Was it like noon or 1 o'clock?
Yeah,
in the afternoon?
It was really bad.
Heat of the day,
and I lost it. I started feeling a little nauseous. Like I was starting to get like worried.
Sign.
I know, I started getting a little worried about like my condition. Like, and at that point he said, should we turn around? And I was not in a great mindset to make a decision at that moment. And I'm not blaming anyone. Like in my head, all I could think of
sounds
was,
like she's blaming you.
No, I'm not. I will say that is the one thing that through the whole thing, we
didn't argue this entire time. We were really
good about when I said, I feel like this is my fault, he was like, no, like we were both very, very reasonable through most of it. Surprisingly.
Well, you had to be, because in that situation,
it was legit
you're
life and
relying
death
on each other, and that just adds a level of stress that does not need to be there.
Yeah. And honestly, it was not an easy decision on whether to turn back or not.
And at that moment, I wasn't in the right mindset, and my brain, the only thing it could think of was moving forward. Like the idea of moving backwards, to me, I couldn't wrap my brain around it. And he said later on, like, maybe he should have pushed the other way, but I don't know whether I could have accepted. I have no idea, because at that point, my brain was just thinking forward. Let's just get to North Rim, and then we'll figure out what we're going to do.
And honestly, so at this point where we could have made that decision, which we talked about later, we'll just kind of go over it now. Like, if we had turned back, it literally would have been dead sun for 11 miles.
Yeah.
So, because it would have been the 4 back to Phantom Ranch in dead sun, and then the 7 straight up Bright Angel, which is all sun.
Yeah,
and
there's
no
no shade.
relief. So that was a part of the decision too.
And we could have taken our time. We could have stayed at Phantom Ranch for a longer time.
Yeah,
but again,
waited
your
till
brain
evening,
isn't quite in the mindset of trying to figure all this out, especially at that moment where I was like feeling like I was dehydrated. And maybe not even dehydrated. I just couldn't cool myself. There was nothing, like, even as I was drinking, like, it wasn't doing anything anymore. So we went forward.
Yeah, we got to about 6 or 7 miles out, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, like a storm cloud is over top of us. And it's like, oh, and it like
so the sun went
saved
away
us,
for a little while.
For like
and then
20 minutes or so.
It was really it was really the puddle that saved my life.
I know, but I mean, the cloud was there for about 20 minutes. It allowed us to keep going forward. And we got to a really small, like, feeder stream.
It's like this little puddle in
like
the
spring coming out of water. It wasn't stagnant water. It was
very
moving
small,
water.
Little, tiny thing. It didn't matter. It saved my life.
It was
dipped
cool
my entire
water.
body in it and sat there for like.
And it was in the shade.
We sat there for like 20 minutes, just like trying to like. And if it hadn't been for that, I'm not sure if I would have made it to Cottonwood without some serious issue.
Yeah. So Cottonwood is basically where the climb starts up and out.
Yeah.
And it's another water stop. So we get there, we fill up all our water again, and we start heading up. And it is, thankfully, the only good thing about going up the north end is it is shady the whole way at that time of day for 90% of it, I would say.
Yeah. I mean, from Cottonwood for the next mile and a half, it was not shady.
And then once we made a turn,
once we got past the next water spot, the rest of it was completely in the shade. The canyon wall blocked you because once you started going up, you were back on that what I was talking about, where it's like 2 to maybe 3 foot trail and then a cliff. And now my fear of heights is back, where I'm like, I am tired, I'm dying, and now I'm next to this cliff wall.
And we're also a little wobbly.
We're wobbly, and I'm like, I'm totally going off the side of this cliff wall, but I can't think about this. I just need to keep looking forward and like at my feet and not at the cliff wall.
Oh my God. It's so stressful.
But
stressful.
we're like, all right, let's get, and we're like, I don't know, maybe we can grab a shuttle at the North Rim.
Yeah, I think I said, that's my fault. I said, well, because I had read, I'm like, there's shuttles at the North Rim. We'll figure out something about with the shuttle.
I'm like, regardless, we'll figure it out. At least we'll be at the North Rim, there's services, and we'll be safe. That's all that mattered. Yeah. So we're going up and 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 up. And then like the last mile and a half.
I think it was longer than a mile and a half.
Or 2 miles is soft sand.
Like sugar sand.
Yeah. Plus climbing.
Like you're literally going up 2,000 feet of elevation because you're going up
through
basically
sand.
1,000 feet a mile.
Like walking the beach uphill.
And and you're on sugar sand. I wanted to.
That's where I started to break.
Effing murder everyone who ever existed creating this trail. I'm like, what the F is happening? Why is this sugar sand?
Yeah, I started kind of breaking there, but I think it was also the elevation that was getting me because we were starting to get up to around 6,000 feet.
Yeah.
And I was having trouble breathing.
The heat was its own challenge. The elevation was its own challenge. The altitude was its own challenge. The sugar sand was its own challenge. All these things, but then you combined them all together, and it was just like effing hell on earth.
Yeah. So finally,
we didn't think we were ever getting out of the canyon.
It took us
that point.
forever.
Honestly, at that point, there was like a point at like when we still had like 4 miles to go, where we were like, we are literally never getting to the top of this canyon.
We're gonna die in
and
here.
And then at like when there was 2 miles and we hit the sand, we were at that point stopping every like quarter mile to stop and like take a breather. Like we are literally
grinding.
And at that point, I was like, if we can get to the top by like 4:30, we'll be okay because we'll be able to. We'll have plenty of time. But that time kept getting longer and longer and longer because we were doing like a mile an hour at that point.
And I also think we just didn't take enough calories in.
Yeah.
I think at some point we just lost our brains and weren't taking enough calories in. Like I had Tailwind that I was always taking in, so I was drinking some.
Yeah, because the reevaluating afterwards, I think that he's right. We weren't taking especially for the elevation we were doing, going up 1,000 feet. We should have been taking more calories in.
Total time, how long were you out there?
We got to the North Rim about 14 hours and 40 minutes.
Okay.
For 30-ish, around 30 miles. Now, to put that in some context, the rim to rim to rim fastest known time is 5 hours and 55 minutes somehow.
Yeah. So somebody literally went, did what we did,
the
and then went all the way back.
In 5 hours and 55 minutes.
So wait, put this 60 miles in 5 hours?
50 something
because it's shorter on our way back because we added.
It's shorter on the way back.
We added the 5.5 mile top part, so it's like 50 something.
It's about 48 to 50 miles. Yeah. In 5:55 with over 11,000 feet of climbing.
11,600 feet of climbing.
Meanwhile, it took us 14 hours and 45 minutes to get across to the other side, barely alive. So we get to the top.
Now you know how I feel.
Well, so
that's how Tom feels after every half marathon.
After every 5K, that's how I feel. So welcome to my world.
Some more ridiculous perspective. Michael's original thing was, I think we could do rim to rim to rim in 14 hours. So he thought we were going to do the whole thing in 14 hours.
We did one direction.
And we did one direction in 14 hours.
So anyway, we finally we start getting into like the alpine area with the huge pine trees and stuff, and we're like, oh, we're getting close. So we see like the crest to the top where the trail starts, and we're like, oh, thank God. So we get up there. It's a parking lot. We're like, we'll just ask what's going on. We found out at that point we had minimal service as we were climbing. Like we would get weird spots where we had cell phone service, and we found out there was no shuttle.
So we were like 3
oh my God.
3 miles away, and I'm like, I don't think there's a shuttle. And so then he's on the trail. We're like still 2.5 miles away, and he's trying to get service to try and find out whether he can get a lift.
So anyway, we get to the top.
It's like, it says that it's going to be $275 for a lift.
It would have been worth it.
Oh, yeah. Oh, no, it would have been.
Well, we had no idea. And then it tells us it's like a 2-hour arrival time to the South Rim.
Which is not, regardless, is wrong.
We'll get there,
anyway,
but yes. So it says it's going to be like a 2-hour drive back to the South Rim. $275. He's like, should I book it? I'm like, I don't even know if we get there.
We don't know.
So we're like, let's just get to the top
and figure it out. Yeah. So we get up top. There's a couple people milling around who had been hiking. We asked the one guy, he's like, oh, I just got dropped off by a shuttle. Wave them down when they come back down the road.
So he's like, oh, go to the road. Go to the road. So Michael runs to the road because he's like, if you see a white van, just start waving and flag him down. I'll go get you the card. So he goes and gets me the card. Michael runs to the road to stand next to it.
Yeah.
And then I call, and they're like, oh, yeah, we have shuttles. What do you need me to book you on one? I was like, yeah, like I want to get on the last shuttle. Like we just heard that one. She's like, all right, well, the next one's at 7 a.m.
The guy stays at the lodge overnight.
Where it's at this point, I think it's like 5 something at night. I think it was like 5:30 when we got up there.
Also, we have to check out of our room the next day on the South Rim.
Yes. So she's like,
it's just too much.
So she's like 7 a.m. The guy who just finished the shuttle run, he stays at the lodge overnight, and then he takes the 7 a.m. She's like, what do you want to do? I'm like, I don't know. She's like, all right, I'm going to be here until I guess it was almost 6. I think it was almost 6 o'clock, but when we got there, because she said, I'm going to be here until 6:30, which gave us a half hour to figure out what we were going to do. I'm going to be here till 6:30. Let me know what you want to do. And I was like, I'll call you back. So Amy and Jason Chase, shout out to our 2 friends. I somehow got some service, and I texted her, we're stranded at the North Rim. And she's like, they were coming up to Flagstaff to meet us the next day. And she's like, do you need us to come rescue you? And we're like, I don't know yet. I have no idea what's going on yet. So she starts looking into ways to get up there, booking a room. we stop and talk to a park ranger.
The rangers, yeah.
So we start walking towards the lodge because people are like, your best option is go towards the lodge. The lodge is a mile away from the top of the rim.
It was more like 2 miles.
We had to walk a mile and a half to the freaking rim. I will say we had more energy than we thought we did.
Yeah, because we ended up running a lot of it.
Jogging some of it.
Yeah.
Anyway, so halfway there, or part of the way there, we see a ranger. So I'm like, I'm going to go talk to them. So I go talk to these 2 rangers, and the 2 of them are like, well, because I was thinking, well, maybe if I talk to a ranger, someone can take us back to the South Rim. And they're like, no, we're on call. We can't do that. Best I can say is you go to the lodge. If you can't get a room at the lodge, then, you can come back here and use the emergency phone. And maybe I can, get you a couple sleeping bags so you can sleep on the ground.
Or we could hike back to Phantom
And then
Ranch.
he's like, or your other option is to go back like the 13 miles to Phantom Ranch and maybe they'll have a room for you.
Which if we were going to do that, we might as well just go all the way back to
what
the South
solution
Rim.
is that?
Yeah.
You're really tired. You look like you're dying, but maybe you should hike back.
Well, to be fair, we didn't look like we were dying. That was the problem.
Oh. So I'm like, but that's still like some weird advice for a park ranger to give you. Maybe you should go into the dark of the night and hike back down to Phantom Ranch.
Basically, sack it up.
So so that was the wonderful help we got from the park ranger. And then so we continued on towards the lodge, and there was someone pulling out of a campsite, and he's like, do you want to ask him if he's going back towards the South Rim? So I was like, all right. So I asked this guy, he's like, no. And he turns towards the lodge. We're like, damn it. So we keep walking. Because at this point, we figured we'd hitchhike if we had to. Like if someone's going back towards the South Rim. So we get up towards the lodge. We get a little bit better service.
We're by the parking lot.
I end up calling Amy and talking to her. She's like been trying to figure out like what to do. She booked us a room at the last
held a room.
The last room at the lodge. So when she called, there was only one room left available at the lodge. So she put it on hold for us. And then in the meantime, we saw another car like that was backing in to a parking spot.
Yeah.
And so we were like, maybe there were some other people milling around. So I walked up to them like, does anyone happen to be going back to the South Rim tonight? And everyone's like, no. There was this guy, Ben, and his girlfriend, Lacey. And we were talking to them for a little bit. We're like, yeah, we're stranded up here. We don't know what to do. The 2 of them go off and talk for a little bit. And then they come back and they're like, well, we don't know where like South Rim is comparatively, but we're going to Flagstaff. If you want to figure out like can you tell us how far South Rim is?
Yeah.
We can maybe figure out like whether or not we can work that in.
By now it is like 6:30.
Yeah. Yeah. So I go and there's one spot that you can get service, not up by the parking lot where they are. So I go down to where I can get service. I look it up. It turns out that it is 4-hour drive from where we are to the South Rim.
I knew it was far because I've driven it before.
Look at Diana's face.
But I forgot how far.
Like, what?
It's 203 miles around.
I wish I could capture Diana's face right now.
But like, it makes sense because the Grand Canyon is big. Like when you guys were saying you were hiking the Grand Canyon, I was like, that's obviously going to be days because of how big it is. So I would just assume it would be a 4-hour drive from one side to the other.
I thought it was like a 2-hour drive.
I felt like an idiot because I thought that. This is legit what I thought.
I thought it was like a 2-hour drive.
I don't understand how you could do it.
I thought it was like a 2-hour drive. Well, I mean, distance-wise, when you think about it, like from one side to the North Rim to the South Rim is only 50 whatever.
But you can't just drive across the canyon. Don't you have to drive around?
Yes,
like,
that's the problem.
Bridge, is there?
No. That would be the problem.
This is what? This is why we didn't want to tell you any of this before this episode.
Like,
we wanted this raw reaction.
But like, that's what I assume, and I swear to God, I felt like a dumbass because I was like, how could they possibly get back? They have to go all the way around the canyon.
Yeah.
So Michael, So let's just talk about how also in the middle of the canyon, like when we were like at the point when we were like, let's just get to the north side, Michael's like, well, maybe we could just walk back using the roads. It'd maybe be like 30 miles.
How is that an option?
It wasn't. Because it was 203 miles.
It doesn't even make sense. Like,
Oh god. So I call Amy and
Oh, God.
I call Amy and Jason. This is when I say it to them, I'm like, it's 4 hours. But Flagstaff is also 4 hours.
Yeah,
for them.
it wasn't. It
Like,
was an extra.
So they're going to Flagstaff. Flagstaff was going to be 4 hours.
Yeah.
If they drove us to the South Rim, it would be 4 hours,
and then an
they'd have
extra
to drive
hour,
an hour and a
to
half.
Flagstaff, or
Now-
hour and a half. Yeah.
I called Amy. I'm like, Amy, what do you want to do? Like, if we can go to Flagstaff, get a hotel, but then obviously all of our stuff is in the room at Bright Angel, so they'd have to drive us back up to the Grand Canyon the next day. So it'd be like 3 hours of their time going back and forth.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm like, what do you want? Like, what are our options? And
so at no point did you think, what is the contingency plan if we don't make it?
no.
I have a contingency plan when I go out of this house and I run 3 miles.
No, we did have a
What am I
contingency
going to
plan.
do if I get out there a mile and I fall and I can't get up? Like, I have like a plan for that.
Well, we
It is
did.
this is just crazy to me.
We had a plan about. Our plan got thwarted by the guy talking to us, where we probably would have turned around at some point and headed the other direction instead of going to the North Rim.
Spite.
Yeah, so spite got us. But also the other thing that got us was getting to the North Rim. We're like, oh, it's a shorter distance. So we got there. But little did we know how many there is like no services.
There's no services. We did, you know
You
what?
think?
At the
In the-
North
at
Rim.
the North
In
Rim.
the Grand Canyon.
Well,
there's not cell phone service.
Well, no, we're not talking about that. We're talking about food, lodging, like
not- there's
at
like-
the South Rim. It's
there's like a
it's a
town,
whole
yeah,
town
yeah.
basically. But at North Rim, there's nothing, and we didn't. I that's I guess my own fault. Like I didn't realize that the North Rim and the South Rim were so different from each other.
Yeah, I wouldn't have known that.
Yeah,
Yeah, they're very, very
I had
different,
no
yeah.
idea that the touristiness of the South Rim is nothing compared, like, is crazy compared to that of the
Yeah,
North Rim.
it's like-
I
Is it just
assumed
prettier? Is that why?
Actually, the North Rim is prettier because
Yeah.
it's got the giant pines and stuff.
Yeah,
But it's only open part of the year because they get so much snow.
yeah. So I guess
Yeah.
I just didn't realize like that. In my head, I thought that they were comparable in the amount of amenities and services that you could get there. But I was inaccurate in that assumption. And for anyone listening to this who wants to go to the Grand Canyon, amenities at the North Rim are not there. So we made friends with Ben and Lacey.
Thankfully.
Hi, Ben and Lacey.
They were, let me tell you, there are not two nicer people in the world because they drove us 4 hours back.
And at that point, I said to them, like, it would add more time to your trip. Like,
Yeah, we didn't like.
I said, if you
Yeah.
want to take us to Flagstaff, we will go to Flagstaff and figure out the rest of it. And he was like, no. I mean, you know, they're like calculating time. They're like, we get there at like 1:30. It's fine. We'll be fine. And I'm like, are you sure? Like you can, because if you do not want to take us to the South Rim, we will go to Flagstaff. And he was like, because we have friends there, we can figure it out. He's like, no, it's fine. We're just going to take you back to South Rim. It doesn't add that much more time. It's an hour and a half. It's not that big a deal.
Okay. Who are Ben and Lacey?
They are just the random strangers we found on the side of the road that we are now calling our road angels.
Aaron,
Ben is listening right now.
I watch a lot of true crime. That's how a lot of it starts.
Yes, we know.
Not to take anything away from the guardian angels, Ben and Lacey, that saved you in your time of need, but man, y'all, this might be a 50% less podcast. And Michael, we kind of need you for the production.
Oh, God. Yeah, so, I mean, we probably would have just stayed at the room.
Yeah.
And then taking the shuttle in the morning, if not.
Yeah.
It
was $200 for us to take the shuttle, by the way.
Yeah, it wasn't
It would have been the
cheap, yeah.
room, which was like $100 and like whatever
Well,
dollars.
it's because it had to drive you 4 hours. it's beyond me that you wouldn't think that.
It's fine. It's fine.
The best, like, I think we talked about it, and I'm like, I think we could have hiked back, but it would have taken us like another 15 hours, probably.
Yeah, that's another whole assessment that we did after.
So, yeah.
I mean, once the heat wasn't bothering me and I was feeling better, and we could have gotten food at the lodge and had a full
Eaten
meal.
a full meal and
then
headed back out.
And headed back out.
And it would have
Yeah.
been dark the whole time, so we wouldn't have had to deal with the sun.
And like I said, in
so,
talking
yeah.
to even like people.
But like, what lives in the canyon in the dark?
Right.
Mountain lions.
Coyotes? What are out there? Like, what creatures are in the Grand Canyon?
We saw one deer
This
the whole
whole
time.
thing is horrifying.
But yeah, I mean, after talking to like, our friend Vanessa, who, like we said, was out there doing 333 miles on the road in.
She literally called us on our
Yes,
drive
she
up
did.
at
We have-
mile like 290 of her road
Yeah,
race.
we have some
Oh my God.
what would you rather's from her that we won't get to this episode, but at some point we'll get to, because apparently when you're on the road for 333 miles, you have a lot of things to think about, and so she thought about our little podcast and
called us.
and called us and gave us some would you rather's.
Oh, that's fun. We'll do that next episode.
But yeah, I mean, after talking to her, even they did, when her and John did it, like they took 22 hours to do.
We
the whole
did not
thing.
realize that though.
Yeah,
We thought they took 16 hours.
yeah. I don't even know what I thought they took, but either way, knowing that people who have as much experience behind them took that amount of time and took their time to enjoy it and like run or be slow. And she said it was not nearly that temperature when they did it. So if it had been the type of temperature we had, it could have even taken them longer. And knowing that, I think now mentally, I think that once I felt better from the heat, we could have kept going. I don't think our legs were so trashed that we couldn't have done it.
Yeah, I think we would have been
in our
okay.
minds, like, because we didn't do it in the time and the way that we had originally imagined it, it meant that we needed to stop, and maybe
we didn't.
we didn't, and we
Yeah.
need to change our mindsets on like how things should go.
But it's all
Yeah.
part of
But that's
learning.
all lessons. We're
Yeah.
a lot newer to this kind of stuff than someone like Vanessa, who has years and years and years of ultra experience.
Another thing we
Well,
should
yeah,
probably not do
absolutely.
is be spiteful.
Oh yeah, don't be spiteful. Don't be spiteful. And Vanessa said that to me too. She was like, people like that are talking to the everyday person. They're not talking to someone who has experience on the trails and like does ultra running. Ultra runners are different than a normal like day hiker.
Maybe they're dumber.
Maybe they are dumber, but they can also put like mentally, there's a different mentality of like what you can push through. And I think that's probably true. And we may have even been able to push through once if we'd gotten more food, because like he said, when we were at the North Rim and we were trying to get to the lodge, we started jogging. Like we had enough in our legs that we on flat ground started jogging.
Trot it over to
Because
the lodge.
we just wanted to get there faster because we couldn't believe it was over a mile and a half away. So we still had life in us. I don't think we were in the right mindset at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But we didn't argue,
We didn't.
amazingly.
that's good.
We didn't kill each other.
Nobody
and-
got thrown off a cliff.
Yeah. Yeah.
We did climb out of the canyon.
Yeah.
And then we took a 4-hour ride with strangers in their pickup back to the South River.
And then, I mean, we had like, Ben was a talker, so we had some great
It was
conversation.
awesome. We talked almost the whole time.
Yeah,
really.
it was great conversation. I had to pull over like 3 times to pee on the side of the road, so that was
Oh yeah, and there's
wonderful.
like nowhere to
There's
stop
nowhere
at
to
to
stop.
pee. Like
So I'm like literally peeing. on
we
the
stopped
side of the
at
road.
this like super
Yeah.
janky like horror movie gas station that was closed,
Nice.
and she went and peed in the woods behind it.
Yeah. I mean, like, what you gonna do?
Everything about this, guys, is just
And then, I had $40 in cash in me, so I was like, I'm totally giving this to these 2 people so
Who
that they can
saved us.
save
Yeah.
their lives and they can go buy themselves some beer and pizza or something in Flagstaff. And as we're handing it to him, he's like, no,
I'm
how
like-
can you do a good, like, this can't be like that random good deed if you pay me. And I'm like, yes, it can.
It's still a good deed. You guys are still the best ever.
So I eventually I left the $40 in the cup holder. He tried to give it back to me. And then I'm like, no, buy some beer and pizza. And he's like, I can't even drink beer. He wasn't even 21 years old.
So meanwhile, the adults got rescued by the younger people.
I mean, we knew that they were in college. We just didn't realize that they were as young as they were.
You're basically boomers at this point, guys.
Yes.
Like the way you reacted and behaved. Come on. You know better.
We are no better. Better.
Oh my god.
Oh my god, it was amazing. Yeah, so it turns out that young Ben and young Lacey saved our boomer lives. I don't know.
So we got back around 11 o'clock.
Yeah.
And we crashed pretty hard after getting showers. And yeah, we did. We went through the whole thing the next day, figuring it out and everything. And we learned a ton.
Yeah.
I think, really, honestly, we only got through it because of the fitness we have and being able to do
to grind things out.
Grind really long times. I don't think somebody who doesn't do that stuff could.
Yeah, I can't do short, fast stuff anymore, but I can grind and I can mentally push myself through stuff that I probably shouldn't mentally push myself through. And maybe I could have even pushed myself through going back, but at that moment in time and knowing that I had felt a little nauseous on the way and all these other things, it was just, I was imagining the helicopter that Diana wanted to send to rescue us.
Yeah,
and so, I
was so concerned. I'm telling you, when I was on the phone with Tom, I literally said, I was like, I don't know how they're going to do this.
Well, the best is as we're going up the North Rim, as you look down, you can see the buildings. There's there's a couple water stations, and there's a building. But that's where the helicopters land.
Yeah, you can see the little helipad.
You see the helipad. I'm like, oh look, there's the helipad. Right there.
You should have just had it. That's what I would have done.
Didn't someone? So I was talking to someone about that, or I was listening to the local DJ here out of DC, and he was talking about people passing away. Isn't the plate if you have to get rescued from a helicopter? Isn't it something like 10 grand?
Oh,
probably.
Probably.
I would assume it's got to be incredibly expensive.
It's something like that. If you can't go on and you're like, okay, I want the helicopter to get me the hell out of here.
Yeah, I assume it's an insane amount of money.
Yeah, I can't even imagine.
Insane amount of money.
Yeah.
I can't even imagine.
I mean, we never.
seriously
thought about the helicopter.
But... No.
I know.
No.
But okay, so physically, you guys, your training paid off.
Yeah.
Did you prepare? Did you bring everything you needed?
We had plenty of fluid and plenty of food.
Yeah, the food and fluid was definitely not the issue. Even at the hottest moments when I thought I was going to pass out, or I started feeling a little nauseous, or the heat exhaustion really started to wear on me. It wasn't even that I hadn't been eating or drinking. It was just that my body just could not. There wasn't any amount of liquid that could cool me.
Yeah.
It was the cooling problem that was the issue. So we definitely were prepared with the food and the water.
Yeah, we had plenty of calories with us. We were able to get plenty of water along the way, and had plenty of capacity to hold a lot of water, in between stations. Even in the hottest part of the day, we had plenty of water to get from station to station.
Yeah.
So, we were totally prepared for all that. Really, it was that heat in the middle, taking longer than we'd planned, just because of, a lot of time we were taking videos, we were taking pictures, we were stopping and looking at stuff. We were, And
I'm glad we did that.
But I'm glad we did that.
Yeah, that was one of the biggest things that I even said at the very beginning, was that I didn't want, because Michael does sometimes have a tendency to push forward without looking around, because he wants to keep moving forward. And the Grand Canyon's one of those things where I want, we might never come back here again. This might not be something we ever do again, especially if we accomplish our goal. I want to make sure we take everything in. And it was the biggest piece of advice I got from 3 people who've done rim to rim to rim, was make sure you take your time to look around and don't just be I need to keep moving forward. Because in the heat, you might think that. And in hindsight, yes, we probably could have kept moving forward a little faster, but I don't actually know that would have helped us.
I don't think so. Yeah.
So
here's the other thing. When it wasn't 120 degrees, I think one of the things, because I think Michael actually said this to me, just because it was 100 degrees instead of 120, you were like, well, it's not going to be that bad because it's not 120. So I think like some reason in your brains, you equated 100 degrees
Was
to
not
like a
that hot.
70-degree day. Just
I think
because,
yeah.
oh, it's not 120
I
right
actually
now.
agree with that.
So like the whole thing is crazy.
100%.
I agree with that completely.
100%
Yeah,
agree that in his head, because even the day before, he's like, "Well, I'm not worried at all about the heat anymore." And I was like,
But it's still June in Arizona.
yeah.
Just because it's
ta-
not breaking
you take what
records
you can
doesn't
get.
mean it's magically not hot.
Yeah.
I feel like you take what you can get. Okay, so now that you've had some time, would you do it again?
Yeah, we're
Yes.
talking about doing rim to rim to rim.
Yeah.
But we
We-
know we're fully aware of what we're getting into. So,
What could Tom and I, we're not doing render. Let me just make that very clear. Could we hike down to the ranch, stay at the ranch, and then hike back
Yes.
up the
Yes.
next day? Would
Yes.
that be in something Tom
Absolutely.
and I
Yes.
could do?
Absolutely, yes.
Yes.
I would say
Okay.
100%.
Yeah.
Because
Okay.
if you go,
Especially if you start
at Bright Angel.
Start early enough in the mornings
Yeah.
where it's cooler. Because even Phantom Ranch in the morning will still be cool, and then
Yeah.
as long as you're headed up towards the cooler air, because both those trails immediately go up. Like it's not like the other direction, that 7 miles that I was not expecting that was going to stay at the bottom of the canyon.
Mm-hmm.
Both the other trails immediately start going up
Yeah.
once you cross the Colorado.
the trails to the south rim, both of them immediately start climbing
Yeah.
out. So
Yeah.
there's no
Gotcha.
like wasted
I mean, you would have
time.
to train for the elevation just because it is 4,000 feet down and 4,000 or almost 5,000 feet down, 5,000 feet back up. So you would
Yeah.
have to train for, being able to climb that kind of, but it's definitely doable.
It's very,
Gotcha.
very
Just
doable.
make sure you do it in early
Early May. Yeah.
And not at like,
Guys, it's not 120. It's not that bad.
yeah.
Like,
So
that's literally what you were thinking.
Yes, it is. It is. To be fair, it is. That is the worst part. Yeah. It was dumb. But we when we talked about it, we're like, we did almost 30 miles across the Grand Canyon.
Yeah.
Like that's a hell of an effort. Like
Yeah.
what do
It's
we?
a hell of an
Yeah.
effort. I
Yeah.
am so impressed and so proud of you guys.
And then we
No,
hit.
I couldn't do it in a million years. And you worked really hard and you did it. And you should be proud of that.
and then we hitchhiked 4 hours back to the bottom of the canyon.
But what we thought was like, yeah. So next time if we want to attempt rim to rim to rim, first we know the trail completely. Now we've done the whole thing, so we know exactly what we're getting into in each section. We would do it at a cooler time of year when the water's on.
And
still.
we actually think we would go down Bright Angel and go back up Bright Angel.
we would
because
just do what we
we've
did.
seen we've
Yeah.
seen South Kaibab now. South
It's
Kaibab
It's beautiful.
is amazing. And if you do decide to do it, I would recommend using both trails. But we've seen South Kaibab now, and it is very steep down. And
It beats your legs up going down.
Yeah. So it's like 5 or whatever. The South Kaibab is shorter than Bright Angel.
But they both go
but
the
they
same
both
distance
go the same elevation up and down. So it's just steeper and harder on you. So if you were going to do it, I would recommend still coming down that way and not trying to climb South Kaibab.
I imagine that's a hard climb.
Yeah, I would imagine that's a really hard climb.
Yeah, but it is beautiful. There's like some really great views
There's
over
Ooh-Ah
there.
Point, which
Yeah.
is
I mean, it's unreal.
ooh,
Yeah.
ah.
So if we did it
Yeah,
again, if we want to go do rim to rim to rim, what we'll do is we will get a cabin right at Bright Angel like we did, go down that trail up to the North Rim, and then back up that trail where we would finish right at the cabin.
Yeah.
And we have full knowledge of what we were getting,
Yeah.
we know the
Yeah.
trail, we know, we get to here, we get to this point, we get to that point,
And I also think that just honestly knowing other people who took longer than we thought, I don't know. It is weird that like
it's a mental game.
It is a mental game, and it is weird to think like, oh, other people, like you don't, just like anything in this world, you don't want to compare yourself because, what does Tom say? Comparison is some thief of joy. Is that what you say? Is that
Oh,
your phrase?
that's true.
It sounds amazing. I don't think I've ever said that.
I'm pretty. I'm pretty sure
I
you
say I'm only in competition with myself,
Yes.
but yeah, that's true.
So I don't want to compare ourselves to other people, but knowing that there's other people who have as much experience as they do out there in this world. And, maybe my goals were dumb and pushing myself too hard, not realizing that, taking your time and enjoying that journey is probably more important than whatever time goal that we were like, oh, because we didn't do it in this, we should just quit and not finish.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's sort of where we almost what we did, because we were like, at this point, we just want to get back to the South Rim, and we didn't take time to be like, we may have been able to keep going. We didn't even really consider the
you
possibility.
didn't even consider it.
Yeah, we should have considered. We should have taken like an hour and said, all right, what are we going to do? But we also
when
had
you got up though, and there wasn't shuttle, and you didn't know how you get back, you went into panic mode.
Yeah.
You can't be expected to make sit down and think things through rationally.
And we did have to make quick decisions because we needed to get a ride.
That car was going to leave.
That car was going to leave. Yeah, the
hotel wasn't going to be available.
Yeah, so we did have to make quick decisions.
Yeah.
So I think we have a better plan going in for next time.
Yeah, so those
contingency
contingency plans that Diana was just talking about, we might have those the next time.
Yeah, I don't understand. If my thing was even when I did my first 10 miler, I said to Tom, I was like, well, Tom, what happens if I can't make it 10 miles? And he's like, well, you sit down on a curb and you call me. And I was like, oh, I guess that's the plan. I don't know. In my head, I'm always thinking, and I guess that's just because I'm such a fat, slow, untrained runner, that I'm the first thing that goes through my mind is what happens when I don't finish this?
That's a good thing to question.
I never go into a race thinking I'm going to finish this, or very unfrequently I do.
Oh my gosh. Well, apparently now so will we.
Yeah.
So that was our Grand Canyon adventure.
We learned a lesson. We had a great experience.
We met Ben and Lacey.
Who were truly one of the kindest, two of the kindest people I've ever met.
Yeah.
And just truly, truly nice people. And we had great conversations along the way.
I love that.
Yeah. So I hope they're doing well.
Yeah, Ben follows our podcast now on Facebook. I saw him like it, and I was like, oh, there he is. There's my boy Ben.
That's awesome. I love that. Hi Ben. Hi Lacey.
The 20-somethings saved the 30 and 40-somethings.
The boomers.
Boomers.
I feel like that's a commentary on the planet.
The kids are all right.
They're going to have to save us because
we can't save ourselves.
We're done. We can't save ourselves.
We put ourselves in these situations.
We'll just walk down the road.
We'll
just walk the road back.
Oh my god, this is the longest episode ever.
Wait, we got to tell quickly. This is going to be long anyway. Quickly, we get to Tempe, right? And we're like, let's go get In-N-Out Burger. It's right around the corner. It was 1.8 miles away. It was 107 degrees out. So we walked 3 miles to get In-N-Out Burger in 107 degrees.
Yeah.
I'd support
that. Listen. People kept talking about this dry heat, and I just want to talk about how dry heat is bull.
She did not.
I told you that. There has to be a recording of me saying dry heat is bull, because everyone's like, "Ew, it's so much better." It's not. It's not better.
It's not.
I will say Flagstaff is amazing and not that hot and a great town. And
oh my God.
Actually, you guys would love Flagstaff.
We were in love with it. It's so I'm ready to move there right now. I'm ready to move to Flagstaff. There's mountains. There's parks that are just literally flat. There's trails that take you to the Arizona Trail.
There's 20 breweries.
We went for a walk with Amy and Jason. It was beautiful.
Fantastic town.
We had coal fire pizza. We went to 4 or 5 different brewery / beer drinking type places.
Just great town. Yeah.
Such a fun town.
Love Flagstaff.
I love it. Yeah. Well, it's funny because I'm going again next week to Arizona. Of course I am. And Tom's like, well, maybe I'll come this time. And then we were talking about you guys and dying in the heat. And Tom's like, maybe I'll wait until fall.
Wait until fall. I would recommend fall.
Oh gosh.
This extra long episode brought to you by Ben and Lacey saving us in the Grand Canyon, or there would have been no episode at all.
That's true. That's true.
Well, we needed a grand episode to summarize your grand adventure.
So dumb.
We're glad you're alive. We're glad you had the experience, and the pictures were amazing. Like, I couldn't figure out the time because I guess you did this all on that Friday, like the whole Friday, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because I was like, the pictures kept popping up on Instagram on the story, and I'm like, are they posting as they're doing this? And like pretty much everything until the squirrel, maybe just after the squirrel, like you looked like you had the smiles, right? Like I couldn't quite, I didn't think you went rim to rim to rim. I thought you went rim to rim.
Which is what we did.
That's what we did, yeah.
Yeah, because the stories kind of stopped there.
Yeah.
Like, so that's what they did. And then they probably got some sort of ride back, but I don't know the logistics. So I was like, so that's kind of what I think happened. But like, I was like, how's the service in the bottom of the Grand Canyon? Because these stories are perfect. And I thought you were kind of doing it in real time because I couldn't figure out, like,
no.
I
He
was like,
posted them
man,
all
and-
like the next day.
Yeah,
I
on
think.
Saturday once we got to
And
Flagstaff.
then he didn't actually post the we took some other videos that I don't think got posted where they would have been way more depressing.
Yeah.
And so I think he decided
they were like 128 hours videos or whatever that movie was.
And so I feel like he eventually stopped posting. Like he made it to a point. He's like, all right, we're going to post it here and then put the end and leave everyone guessing.
Yep. And I saw you in your little shamrock hat and
oh gosh.
yeah.
It was awesome.
Also,
though.
before we keep going, I just have one other like really dumb question that at this point I'm almost too embarrassed to ask. I don't understand why there are 3 rims. Is one rim the bottom? Why is it rim to rim to rim?
South to north to south.
North, south.
So our plan was to go south to north, back to south.
Oh, I
Yeah,
guess
so
it
it's
does make
rim
sense.
to
Okay.
rim.
It's an out and back.
It's an
Back
out
to
and
rim.
back.
Out and
Okay,
back,
that
yeah.
makes more
Yeah,
sense.
Yeah.
But we
I was
didn't.
thinking there were 3 points like a triangle
That's-
because I'm a dumbass.
I'm
Well,
sure there are.
Technically, it
Other
is sort of like a
points.
triangle.
It's kind of like a triangle. Yeah.
It is technically sort of like a triangle because you go the way we did it. We did
One
rim to
over
rim
and then back
to rim.
Yeah.
We were gonna come up a
Gotcha.
different trail, so
Yeah.
it kind of would have been
So-
almost
Okay,
like a
okay,
little
okay.
triangle.
But what we
Yeah.
did was
Gotcha.
rim to Ben and Lacey.
Yes.